Thank you very much for joining today, everybody. My name is Steve Ronan, practice leader for strategy and transformation and business process outsourcing here at Citrin Cooperman. We are very excited today for our TRU Snacks webinar to present Shawn Williams, a director who is really one of the leading thinkers on the pivot to remote work right now, especially in the middle market. And very excited to have him give his perspective and the firm's perspective on some of the challenges and key success factors of moving to a remote work environment. We'd like to give everybody just a couple of housekeeping points up front. We will be taking questions throughout the session today. We encourage you to use the Q&A window at the bottom of the screen to submit questions, and we can answer some of those live and some in writing as we go. We also will be doing one of our TRU Snack Basket giveaways during this session. So if you've joined the call, you've been entered to win one of our basket of snacks from our local vendors, and we'll be announcing that at the end. And these are very interesting times that we live in, and remote work has become a very important topic for virtually every business. And we want today's session to be practical. We want it to be insightful, and to the extent that it can be focused on any of your particular questions and topics, we would welcome the ability to address that. So please feel free to interact now or with Shawn after the meeting. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shawn to take us through how to build effective technology for managing a remote workforce. Shawn?
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shawn Williams. As Steve mentioned, I'm a director in our Outsourced and IT Advisory Service Group, where we focus on helping businesses utilizing their technology effectively. So today we're going to talk about what everybody's been talking about. You know, we've been living in this time of the unknown and working from home, working remotely. Myself, I feel like we've been kind of in a time warp. Here we are 8 months later, and we're still not sure when we're going to get back to normal or what the new normal is going to look like. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about how we continue to work and run our businesses and managing our remote workforces and adapting to new trends and incorporating things that make sense for our businesses. So I'll do this by going over three main points. The first being mobilizing an effective remote workforce. We're all doing it today, but let's see if we can make it more effective. What technologies are we using to leverage leveraging technology to manage our workforces? And then lastly, and just as important, how are we protecting our businesses in this new era? So I want to start by talking about mobilizing our effective workforce and what we're doing for our clients, the conversations we're having. I'd like to take a step back in time to 8 months ago, at least in the New York region, where we effectively were all told that we need to work from home. Businesses, small and big, our government said, basically told everyone to go home on a Friday and do not come back in on Monday. And figure it out. Some businesses were prepared and ready to do it and pivot very easily. Other businesses were not, and they had to scramble to figure out what to do. And some were successful. So what we've learned over time is through planning and strategy, effective ways to look at this, especially moving forward. And we've done this with our clients. So I'll get into some of these specific areas now. What we've seen as keys to the success is having a plan and a strategy around remote work, evaluating our remote work, and then adapting to it. So the first bullet point I have here is what we do to plan for this remote work. And when we sit down with our clients, we're not sitting down and saying, hey, here's some cool technology. You know, we can give you VDI, we can give you all this cool stuff. You're going to be in the cloud and it's going to be amazing. You can put it on your phone, all that stuff. We start with discussing what it means to the business and how the business operates. And then we find the technology that meets the needs of both. So aligning the business with the IT organization instead of just going out to the cute bells and whistles. I'd like to use a few examples of this. One of our clients at the beginning of this pandemic and the work from home was well prepared for this. They already had a strategy in place with they had a very extensive work from home policy. So they had servers and systems in place that allow their employees to work hybrid. They worked from home, they worked in the office. So when the pandemic hit, they were able to pivot very easily. They had voice over IP phones, so users could use their office phone number for their business on their cell phones, on their if they had a physical phone that they could take home and plug in the internet, they were able to do that. And also they were able to access any data and systems that they had within their business. Conversely, we worked with some companies, and this was probably more of the norm. A lot of our customers are calling us saying, hey, we don't really have a plan. We're concerned that our business may be shut down in a week or two. What can we do to plan for this? So the first thing we did was businesses that maybe we weren't as familiar with, sat down and got an understanding of their business. We looked at what they did and what their services were to their customers. So how is this working remotely going to affect their customers? How do we align that with their business? So an example of that is some of our law firms they're working with, they're heavily on paper, and their clients coming to their office for meetings. So what were they going to need to do to be able to effectively still communicate with their clients and work remotely? And I'm sure everyone is called. Today we're sitting here talking on a Zoom conference call that's familiar with this technology. There's others out there that allow us to do the same thing. So we set them up with remote learning and remote connections and things of that nature. And then we looked at also other areas where if they needed to be able to get documents from clients, and whether they needed to be able to, if they were doing fax and mail, how are they going to handle those things? So it wasn't just the technology, it was their overall operations and how it would be affected by remote work. Secondly, we looked at, we talked about their organization, and this is a conversation that's happening now that we've been remote for 8 months, is how are we going to pivot and to this new normal and work? So what does our technology look like? Well, the first thing is our technology has to be more agile. We can no longer have technology that requires months and years to transform, to make a change in our business. And what I mean by that is our traditional businesses typically had a data center, they had a bunch of servers and physical hardware they owned, and it worked one specific way under a set of circumstances. And when those circumstances change, it's very difficult to change with it. Within an agile environment, I'm able to scale when I need to. So if my user base grows, I can add more servers rapidly rather than having to order a lot of hardware or redesign what I'm using. A great example of this is a large company. It's not a small company. Is both Microsoft and Zoom, when this pandemic started, had a much smaller footprint in this mobile workforce. So Microsoft usage for Microsoft Teams went from 10% to 70% in the course of 3 months. And Zoom went from 10 million users to 200 million users in 3 months. And that's their claim, and they were able to scale. So how does a small, medium, mid-market company do the same thing? I want to use an example of a client that we have that does manufacturing. And they had to do the same thing. They had to pivot. They had to figure out how to effectively work from home, with the exception of the people that were in their warehouses putting things on trucks. Everyone else needed to be able to work remotely. The customer service reps, the people who fulfill orders, the people who look at their supply chain, all those things. And they need to be able to effectively work with their clients. So they went from a system where maybe 10 or 12 of their suppliers were connecting to their system to where 50 or 100 of their suppliers were connecting to their system. And this one manufacturer already had a lot of stuff in the cloud, so they were able to add more capability and scalability to their environment. So it worked very well for them. So that's the kind of making that agile environment and having discussions about that. The last thing is kind of ties into the first two is empowering our employees. This is becoming more of a norm to work from home. It helps to build morale that people can do this. And as we build our technology around this workplace, we have to understand what it's like for our employees when they're working from home, where they have kids or they have all these other outside influences that are not normal. The fact that we can work from home and have technology available to them allows them to work a more modified schedule to be able to work. The way we do this is we evaluate. So my next bullet point I have here is about technology debt. So this is technology debt, the term that's been around for a long time and used in software development world. Software developers, they accept a certain amount of debt when they're building an application. The application is never perfect when they first deploy it, whether it be Microsoft Office or anything like that. And they accept that they're going to make updates to it over time. It's a level of debt they accept. What I'm referring to when I talk about technology debt is deferred maintenance. You have an infrastructure, you're a mid-sized business, you have servers, you have computers, you have phones, you have all these things. Have you maintained them? Have you kept them up to date? Is your technology 10 years old? Is it 5 years old? Or is it 2 years old? That's going to affect your ability to be able to pivot and move into a remote environment and to be agile. So the first thing we like to do when we're sitting down with a client is evaluate what they have to make sure that it's effective and we're going to be able to use it to make those changes and allow people to work remotely. The next thing is, and this is a big one for businesses, is budgets. Do we have budget for technology? Is it just a line item along with my electric bill and my rent? Or is technology looked at as a part of our strategy for our company? And some of the dollars that I'm using for technology is an investment versus just a line item as an operational expense. It's important to have one either way, because when times like this come, we have money allocated to make changes in our environment to be more effective. And then the last thing is as we're evaluating, how do we need to collaborate? Do we need to be able to make phone calls? Do we need to be able to do video conferencing? All those things. Different clients are doing different things. So a lot of our professional services firms, so law firms and such, they very much are big on communication and having calls. They've had to have calls with courts. They have to do all these things that require a high level of collaboration. So if you don't have a tool now, you really need to look at technology that can help you. An example, within our group, we use Teams, Microsoft Teams, to collaborate, not only video calls and phone calls, but also sharing of documents and everything else in between. And Microsoft and a couple of other companies have done a lot to advance the capability and the features that are available to you to do collaboration. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about leveraging technology. And then lastly is we have to adapt. So we have to be willing for change. I sit down sometimes with companies, not as much anymore, and there's this resistance to go to the cloud. Well, if it's in the cloud, I don't own the data, or is it secure? These are all the things that people are concerned about, and rightly so. But I'm here to say that it's matured, and that the cloud can be safe if set up properly, and you still own your data. You just have to be mindful, and when you're selecting a vendor, and that's one of the things we do when we're going out and we're looking at what vendors to use to store data, and it really depends on the industry. We just recently, right before the pandemic, a law firm, we moved them. They were very resistant to it, to Office 365. Not only did it move their email and give them more versatility with email, it also introduced a lot of the other things that they did not have before. So collaboration with Microsoft Teams and being able to share documents with SharePoint, and a host of other features. I got a call 3 months later, and they were so thankful that they were able to do these things, and their clients were happy that they were able to set up video calls, and it was simple. It wasn't hard. There wasn't a lot of friction with the technology. And then the last thing is key to success is to set expectations, technical expectations and human expectations. Sometimes we expect technology to fix all our problems. They don't. So we just have to set those expectations in advance. And if we do all these things, we can successfully move into an effective remote workforce. So let's talk about some of the risk and pitfalls. This is probably the biggest area and where people are struggling the most. The biggest one is the work from home environment. So now everybody's working from home. The number one complaint we get is it's slow, I can't connect, I can't do any of these things. I'm sure a lot of you've heard it before, but our internet and our connections and whether it be on the internet or a server in your four walls is highly dependent on the internet connection you have. So if you're sitting in your house and you have Time Warner and someone knocks down the pole in front of the house and the internet's down, you're not going to be able to effectively connect to anything. And we just have to have those, set those expectations with them. And there are things we can do to try to mitigate those risks for people who are working and their work is very sensitive, whether it be mobile hotspots and things of that nature. But it is a reality. The risk of working from home is we're now reliant on technology in someone's home and not technology that we've implemented in our four walls. I say that not to say it's a bad thing, but it's just a reality of everything. The second thing is support. Support from home is a lot different than in the four walls. And depending on how a company has gone into infecting their remote from home workforce, makes the support easier or bad. So if you decided to send everyone home and you had desktops in the office and you said use whatever technology you have home, whether it's your home laptop or your computer, providing that technical support is going to be a lot more difficult rather than if you had provided your employees with computers of their own. I have clients that are doing both. The clients that decided early on to move from using desktop computers in their office to laptops, the cost was a little bit higher. They were more agile and they had more flexibility because everyone was able to just bring their laptops home, not worry about supporting people's computers at home or doing all those things. The clients that had physical computers in their house had to rely on employees' computers in their home, or they had to make the extra expense and buy new machines. And then the last risk is cybersecurity, which kind of affects it's a higher risk if you have people using their own computers, and we'll discuss a little bit about security in a moment. So what technologies out there and what are the areas we need to look at as we start to really think about work from home being a long-term solution or a more integral part of our organization. So there's three areas that we have when we think about technology. We have our infrastructure, which would be our computers, our servers, our internet connection, all those things. They're very important. So if I'm in an organization that has servers and systems and data that sit in my four walls, my communication into my office is paramount and very important for mid-sized businesses. So if you have a business and you have one internet connection going into your office, I encourage you to have two, to have a primary circuit and a secondary circuit. A lot of small and medium-sized businesses, they don't do that. They look at the cost. I don't really need to. Cogent's very reliable. We've never had an outage, but if everyone's working from home and they have that one outage, how is it going to affect my business? So my advice would be to have multiple connections into the office. Another area of technology we use are VPNs to allow for secure connections into our office, and obviously moving into the cloud. So the remote for work, some technology that we can leverage to allow for a remote from work are, so Citrin Cooperman, we're able to work from home using VPNs, thin clients, all these cool things. Some of my clients have started to implement these. We've implemented Citrix desktops, which essentially is, instead of me connecting my computer directly into a network or connecting to my computer in the office, I'm connecting to a list of a farm of servers that I can then remote control and have sessions with. The same thing with Microsoft remote desktop servers. And I can take these same workloads and I can use them in the cloud also. So basically my users now have somewhere to connect to where they can get to their data, whether it be the accounting and finance system, or it's they're using documents, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. They're connecting to a remote system that allows them to get to the data without having to rely on their computer in the office. And then lastly is the cloud. So the cloud is big. It allows us to be agile. It allows us to utilize a lot of different services. So I've listed some here: Office 365, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon Web Services. We can leverage these cloud services to store our data. We can store our data that's accessible not only on our computers, but on our phones, on our tablets, and things of that nature. So the question I have for everyone in the audience is, has your business successfully pivoted to remote work? So we'll give everyone about 30 seconds to answer this one poll question. All right, great. All right, the last area that I want to talk about is cybersecurity, which is very important when people are working from home. So this first slide is, who are the threat actors? Who are we trying to protect ourselves against? It comes from a lot of areas. I hope we're not all the way in the red where we're talking about warfare, but over here in the green, these are real for small and medium-sized businesses. You have people, you have hackers who are just trying to disrupt your business and just cause havoc. You have people who have there's a criminal element. They're doing it for financial gain. And then you have insiders, people who may be disgruntled, or they're trying to do corporate espionage and things of that nature. These are the characters that we're trying to protect against. But what are we trying to protect? So when we talk about cybersecurity, there are main areas. What we're trying to protect are the data on our computers, the data on our networks, data at rest, and data in motion. So what is data at rest? Data is sitting on a computer, sitting on a server. Is that data encrypted? Is it accessible easily from those bad actors that we talked about earlier? Or is the data in motion? And when we send emails, is it protected? Is it easily accessible? So we need to protect all these different areas. And then we have to have our goals. So our goals of cybersecurity is, obviously, we want to protect confidentiality of our data. We want to ensure data integrity, and we want to ensure data availability. So we want to make sure that if I'm in a banking business or financial services, or I collect credit cards, social security numbers, anything of that nature, that data remains confidential. We want to make sure our data remains the same. People aren't modifying our data. And lastly, we want to make sure that both our employees and our customers can access their data at all times. So hopefully what we've talked about today has given you a little bit more insight of what to start thinking about as we continue to manage this pandemic, and also looking into the future of this new normal. So at this time,
yeah, thanks very much, Shawn. Appreciate the presentation. So a couple of questions that we've gotten kind of on the side here. The first is, if people are wondering if their companies are a little bit behind, and we're looking at likely a long work from home period right ahead of us. How much time and how hard is it to get started to fix those problems to at least make the next 6 months or so more successful?
The good news is there are very quick short-term solutions that can be put in place. If you're not doing any work from home, maybe your business was just not affected, and they were able to, for the most part, have people in the office. There are technology out there that can be implemented fairly rapidly. If you're a business that's already doing it and you're looking to expand on that, there's technology. If you haven't spent a lot of time not upgrading your technology, that can be implemented quickly. And I'd just like to give a really quick example of that. We've had one client that is starting to think about reducing their footprint in real estate, and also giving their employees the option to work from home permanently. But they realize that they're going to have to invest in their infrastructure. So within a month, we're going to implement some servers and some technology that's going to allow them to do that. And it's not only going to address now, it's going to be able to address in the future. So the short answer is it can be done rather rapidly.
Perfect. Thank you. We have one more question that we can take quickly. How do you continue to connect with employees while they work from home? The longer this goes, the more isolated and inefficient my team becomes. Great comment that we're hearing from a lot of people, right?
Yes. That's a great question. So I was talking with someone, and the idea actually didn't come from, we just implemented technology and allowed them to do that. And it was a great concept. What they did is they're using Microsoft Teams, and they set up conference rooms like that you could jump in and jump out of and have group conversations throughout the day. And it became engaging, and people started using it. It's a cultural thing, and it took a little bit of time for everybody to get comfortable with it, but just literally having video conference rooms open up for people to jump in and out of to stay more collaborative.
Great. Thank you, Shawn. So we're right at our time here. Shawn, why don't you put your contact information back up on the screen while I close this out for us? There's a lot of questions on this, a lot of challenges ahead of us, and it's really important for virtually everybody here. So definitely encourage you to reach out to Shawn with any further questions, from a quick question to something more in depth. He's a great point of contact for this topic. We'd like to invite you to join us on December 10th. And we're taking a couple of weeks off with the holidays, but we're returning on December 10th, where we're going to talk a little bit about benchmarking strategies and how to use financial performance management to improve the profitability and performance of your business. And for our snack giveaway today, we'd like to tell Leonard DePinto that he has won that for today in our random drawing. So Leonard, somebody from our marketing team will be reaching out for a shipping address for you. So thanks everybody for joining. It was terrific to see you all. As we close in on the end of the week, wish you a best Friday you could have and a great weekend, and hope to see you on our next session. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.